Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Secrets for an Inspirational Life. I hope that you are all well. I hope there's a little bit of light and a little bit of happiness echoing in your life wherever you are right now. We're here in the United Kingdom going through a heat wave, which seems to be ongoing and everlasting, and we're all finding it a little bit sort of difficult. But that is life, isn't it? We have to accept sometimes the situation that we are in order to survive. And also, we have to accept the light and the darkness, because everything in this life has the light and has the dark. It really is entirely up to us in which direction we turn towards, whether we turn to the sunshine, to the glow of the moonlight, or we look into the dark crevices. Sometimes it is not easy. And one of the most important things I believe in life is to have the power and the belief in oneself. And that no matter what happens, however terrible sometimes things may seem around us and how fearful, is that we ourselves are so powerful. Our light, our essence, and our core is one of the most powerful things on this earth. And we need to keep strong, have the faith firstly in ourselves and encapsulate that power really within our soul. And today's guest, well, what can I say? I have really the honor, the pleasure to have my wonderful and really beautiful guest today, who is Billy Boss. Now, Billy is a high performance life strategist. That's just the beginning of the story, I have to tell you. She is a speaker and an author, and she helps individuals and teams to bring out their joy and passion through living their life with a purpose. She really inspires people to create their ideal life, something that they have always strived to do, and I suppose a little bit like the dream maker. And through that, in order to reach that, she uncovers what's holding them back. It is actually the pain that Billy has personally lived through, which has been extremely traumatic. And she will give us her amazing and, sad but triumphant story, in the end, later on, that has actually turned into her greatest power. And this didn't come easy, as nothing in life really like this does come easy and without guidance. But she is the perfect example of understanding difficulties and actually dealing with them, and how to take the first step to help others, to empower others, and to inspire others. Billy is also best known as a voice for women and men who have been living in the silence of abuse. It's often a very difficult subject, but it's something really these days that keeps coming up over and over again. And it's something that she is an expert in helping others deal with. She turned her own life from a mess into the woman that she is now, which is an author, an entrepreneur, an athlete, a mama, and all things wonderful. She is a motivational speaker as well, and an advocate for survivors of sexual abuse, and also empowering people to live their life with passion, confidence, authenticity, and love. I have the real pleasure of welcoming Billy.
Mimi, I'm into your great introduction. I had to pinch myself and to really figure out, is that me you're introducing or is it somebody else? Thank you so much, and I'm so honored and I have the greatest pleasure to be here with you and really serving your audience. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Billy, for coming on today. And yes, it is you, and you are absolutely remarkable. And oh my goodness, really, your story and your survival and this huge, loving spirit of yours is really, truly amazing. And I'm honored to have you here today.
Thank you, Mimi. And usually I would say we all do have a story and we all have a unique way of our life. But at the end is honestly, what do we do with that story? What do we do with that life?
Mm.
And honestly, I would not just say, well, I had a really tough and challenging life. There is so many people out there. However, as you just sort of mentioned in your amazing introduction, I did actually turn my pain into power. And also all of those wounds that I went through, they actually became my life learning wisdom, something that you cannot really go and learn anywhere else or buy the book and learn those wisdom, but you just have to go through, experience it, feel it, and really be grateful end of the journey for everything that had happened.
It's the university of life, isn't it? It's one of the most important, I think, knowledges and wisdoms that we can ever go through is actually living through it. And I know that your story was harrowing, but for the listeners, please tell us, if we go back to the beginning of your life in a way, tell us a little bit how it all started and share a little bit about your life, Billy.
Sure. So for me, everything started, I actually experienced subconscious rejection being 17 days old. So my mom, she actually left me as a little baby, 17 days old with foster family. And I have been age of 6 when I got reunited with my parents. So in that age, in that period of 6 years, they would sort of, my mom and dad will come and visit me, and by that stage of age of 6, I had actually changed a couple of foster families. When I was reunited with my family as a little kid, you sort of really look forward to being with your mom and dad and embracing the family and whatnot, and that really turned to be start of my nightmare that I had to endure for years. And my father actually started to sexually abuse me. With that, mental and emotional abuse came through, physical abuse as well.
And this was your
So that
real
actually,
father, Billy?
this is my biological father, yes. So this had been going for about 12 years. So from age of 6 until age of 17 and a half. So for me, it was something that I think, like, anyone that is actually listening and finding themselves in this story, they would exactly know like how it feels, like that your childhood is taken away, the trust is taken away. There is a sense of self-esteem. There is nothing in there. The confidence, the sense of worthlessness, all of these things that they're actually non-existing. So through all of this time, not just that my father was abusing me, but you go to school, there is also teachers. So during the war, because my background is Serbian and I lived in Bosnia, so I was also shot during the war. So being in hospital for some time, doctor also abused me. So it sort of happened to be like, wow, one thing after the other. However, I felt that I don't know for anything different. I could not actually say anything. I had to keep in silence. I was afraid to speak up. I was actually threatened to speak up as well. So I also feel for many people that they might actually would like to share their story, but there is also that fear of judgment, fear of what no one is going to believe us, fear of are we going to survive afterwards, what is the next chapter of our life, fear of the change. There is so many fears, and all of this was going actually through my head. And to tell you the truth, Mimi, in beginning I did not know what was really going on. I did not know that this was something that it's not supposed to be happening. I did not know any other way. So later on it came to become more of a to sort of see that this is something that it shouldn't be happening to children, where I actually learn more about some certain things. So
yeah, I wanted to. So did you actually live through the war?
Yes, I did, and the war actually started back in 91 through to 96. So yes, we lived through the war over there, and yeah, I was the survivor of the war. And every time I think of that moment, how everything happened and how that bullet just sort of missed me by 1 millimeter on my face, every time that is the reminder for me that there was a reason for me to live, to do something. There was a greater vision, mission, and purpose for me.
Now,
and
it must have been absolutely terrifying, a terrifying life in itself, let alone with what was happening with the abuse as well.
Oh, definitely. And that actually made sort of a bit even worse because there were not people around. Usually when, war wasn't on, at least it will be more family members. Somehow my father sent my beautiful sisters to be with our family members in next city to ours, where it was more peaceful, and he kept me at home. And I pretty much all the time I was like a hostage, not just through the war, but through all the years of abuse, because I was not allowed to go anywhere. I wasn't allowed to see anyone. We didn't have technology as we do like these days for our children. So I was very isolated from everybody and kept as a hostage. So it was quite challenging. And to make matters worse, I thought to run away from home. And when I did do that, little did I know that I was actually running into the hands of a person that was wanting to kill me. So that is the story on its own. But I'll just tiny bit share here with you. Because my father during the war, he was sort of known for a man who is a sort of financially well off, so he would actually pay people not to go to the war and everything. And there is different sides of political stuff, and they found this young person to come and shoot the eldest daughter in our family, and that is me. I'm the eldest daughter, so the shooting, and that was actually the shooter. Actually, in the fact, the shooter was his brother. And later on, a year later, I ran away with the guy who was actually the brother of the shooter. So, and then he said to me, Billy, being drunk, and one night he just said to me, I'm here to really end your life. And then he told me and revealed the story of what was really going behind scene, because the moment I ran away from home, I had only 7 days in peace, and these guys started to abuse me, to threaten me, to beat me up, to all the things that you would never think that a human can actually or should endure, the pain. And yes, in that relationship I actually had, I was actually forced to get married. And I was underage, and the fear when we talk about overcoming fears, I think that was the biggest fear, the first biggest fear that I had to overcome. It's really to die or live. It was the question mark. So I decided, okay, I'll run for my life. And I survived. I ran, and 6 months later from that event, I happened to come to this beautiful country, which was back in 96. So we landed in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, from the abuse with my father, through the shooting, through forcing to be married, coming to Australia, thinking, okay, there we go, I'm free here. Beautiful country, everything is amazing, and little did I know that side effects of what I went through had a really huge impact on my life, which was depression and anxiety and addictions. And really, I became my worst enemy afterwards. So, yeah.
And what age did you leave? Is it Bosnia that you were in?
Yes, I was 17 and a half. So when we actually landed, and mind you, when I ran away from my, my ex-husband, should I say, because I was forced to be married to him, and I got married. I ran back to my family, my mom and dad, and so I came with them to Australia. We came here together. We landed here together back in 96, and 17 and a half at the time.
And it was with both your parents that you actually came to Australia?
Yeah, both parents, my beautiful 2 younger sisters, we all came here.
And how did that feel, that you were leaving that country and coming to a strange country, but yet also with your father who had caused you so much pain?
Well, to tell you the truth, I felt like coming here, it's a new start. And if anything, I was feeling, only our country, which was former Yugoslavia at the time, did not have any rules or regulations to protect women nor children. So then I felt, okay, in this beautiful country, I will be protected. Somebody will take care of me. My father will change because there are different rules. So I actually had a really good outlook on life, and definitely a lots of hope. However, it did not work that way because my father, again, was persistent with what he was doing. So he was still abusing me. For him, there was not a law. For him, it was not nothing that, can stop him. And he knew that, I feel that he actually knew the fear in me that he sort of inbuilt. So he would always say to me, I'm your God, you have to obey me, you actually have to listen to what I say. So to me, again, we actually had to live through something, what I lived back in Bosnia. So it was not actually, my dreams were very much shattered soon after I recognized and realized what is actually going to happen. So it took me only 6 months to really speak up, and I found myself at school when principal would come to me and they would say to me, Billy, it's been 6 months. Well, now, like thinking back, I could not understand a word of English. So every time my interpreter was there, so she would say to me, Billy, principals and teachers, they're actually concerned about your education and well-being, and you don't speak English at all. There is no one sentence coming out of you. What's going on? And that was the day when I actually went to principal's office and I invited my interpreter and I just said to them, this is what's going. So I don't know what to do. I said, I don't know, should I now go back home? I'm afraid because I said something. And that was the day that I pretty much found myself on my own, because principal stood up and she said, Billy, we are going to look after you. They organized the shelter, women's shelter. I went that day home and I prepared all my bags of clothes and that I can actually take with me, my school bag. And I also made one trip during the school hours, knowing that my parents were not home. I went back home and I picked whatever I can. So my principal was waiting for me at school, and she took me to women's shelters. So that's where I actually found my first home. I stayed there for a while. It took me a very, very long time to really um, to sort of really sit in everything that was actually going on. I was sad, I was happy. There are so many emotions and lots of confusion. I felt that I will never see my mom and sisters again. I felt happy that I was away from everything that was going on at the household. But however, you know, it was something that was drawing me back home. And later on, I learned there is this sort of connection between the abuser and the victim. So you really
Mm-hmm.
can't just, slice it and say, okay, this is it. It's not happening anymore. The emotional attachment, the urge for something that you have been living through, that conditioning, it was something that really challenged me a lot. And from there, like, we actually took legal matters and everything. So I don't know whether we want to go into any of those details, but
It's up
it
to
took.
you. I mean, if you feel that it might help listeners out there, it's entirely up to you. Then please feel free to say whatever you like.
To tell you the truth, Mimi, with me and my legal matters, we haven't really reached anywhere because here in Australia, because we lived in Adelaide. So when we actually went through court there, my father actually escaped from one state to the other state. The police actually followed through the different state as well. By that time, he was actually back in our country. So he flew back with my mom and my sisters. And later on, and 2000, the war broke in Serbia, and I remember my mom calling and asking, like, is it okay to come back? And because their fear was like, oh no, he's going to be in jail and whatever. So I said, okay, he can come back. I won't actually press any charges. It is okay. So I actually made the peace with myself that I will do whatever it takes on my behalf to let it go, to forgive, to really do whatever I need to do, not to sort of one day turn back and say, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. So my then 2001, they actually came back to Australia to live. They're still here. So for many listeners, I know, like, my mom, yes, she did know that I was actually abused. However, day to day, she is with my father. So many people will sort of ask me, so Billy, how do how does that work? So that is another chapter. And we can talk here days and nights of all of the questions that I actually get when people sort of read the book. But it's, even then, it took me so long to get to terms that I really need to do some serious work, because when you sort of look, through the eyes of somebody who went through the abuse, the shooting, all of this stuff, there is actually many traumas that we need to deal with. There is so many flashbacks. There is so many. I used to wake up in sweats and tearing my pajamas and seeing people and hearing people, and I just could not explain what I was going through. And I always felt that there is no hope for me. There is no hope for me. For a long time, I lived not knowing that I was having depression and anxiety, because to me, that's how I was surviving. I was having these outbursts for not knowing why. So I found myself in so many toxic relationships, and by age of 31, I found myself, single mom with my girl in hands, and thinking, okay, what the heck am I doing now? No home, no money, no nothing. So it really took me so many years, and I feel like when I really hit the rock bottom, that's when I started to think, okay, there is a serious issue here. what do I do? Because by that time, I was not good to myself. I was not good to my daughter. I lived through toxic relationship where I really and truly take my ownership because I was not well myself. So it took me a long time to really get to know and to become aware of where I was at the time and what was actually happening to me in order for me to break the silence and do what I needed to do to become the person that I am today.
It it's a harrowing story, and there's so many questions, I'm sure, that people ask
Mm,
you. There's so many questions that I could ask you, but as you said, we could talk about it for days and years and lifetimes because it's so deep on so many levels, and it's unthinkable, somebody that you trusted could do such things to somebody, and
mm,
it scars people. Everything that we go through in life, whatever it is, it scars us to a point, and we, at the end of our life, it's our scars in a way that define us, not our
mm,
medals, not our diplomas, but the scars, the things that we've gone through and survived and lived to speak about.
mm,
But when did you find the courage, Billy, initially to
mm.
tell your mum or to tell somebody? Was it in school? Was that the first time, or had you actually, shared in confidence to someone prior to that?
Even with school, it was very much in confidence because there is so much shame and embarrassment that was
Mm.
attached to me, and that was very confidential. And I remember when I left my parents at that time, lots of judgment from the family members. Why did I left home, and how can I actually do such a thing? And I broke the traditional rule as a Serbian teenager, running away. We don't do that. You are with the parents, pretty much until you get married. So why would I run away? Such a beautiful and, we have been looked as a wealthy family. That's how people saw us.
Mm.
My father was great in people's eyes, and so lots of judgment came through at me pretty much. So all of this, like, she's like this, she's like that. So we really kept that confidential, so no one knew exactly what was going on. And I remember I secretly told girlfriend of mine what had happened, and once she actually told somebody, and I remember I was so upset, not even knowing why I was so upset at the time, because I'm thinking but the story is the truth. This was my life, and working out, it is shame, it is fear, it is embarrassment, but the courage pretty much came when I had my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that the person that I really shared was her dad at the time, my daughter's father. And he was the one approaching my father at once, and he, said, like, did you do this to Billy? And my family were there, and to the point my father, he just calmly turned around to him and he would say, she's a liar. And this is actually for whoever is going or whoever went through. This is something that everybody's afraid of, that, people will be calling them liars.
Yes. Mm. Mm.
Yeah. And the thing is, I would always say, as long as you know this is the truth, never to listen to anybody, because there is never, I haven't heard, it could be, but abuser will never say or admit that they are abusers, that they have, abused someone. So that was my dad as well. So my ex-husband, or
Mm-hmm.
should I say father of my child, he was actually one who knew. But of course, because at the time I was speaking to my father, I would go and visit them. So, he was confused. My partner at the time, he was actually confused what was going on. So I
Mm.
created doubts in him as well, to the point he would say to me, I don't know, Billy, whether, telling me the truth or not. So I actually went through life for people doubting me and not really being there for me. And that was actually a huge disappointment for myself. And I feel when I had my daughter, that's when many, many things, and this was actually 2007, many things were going through my head. That is actually the first time that I recognized there is actually depression and anxiety that I had to go, that I'm actually living with. It was chronic depression. It was so many other illnesses. I was actually being on prescription medications and whatnot to really make next day alive. However, I was questioning myself. Why, as a mom, like now that I'm mom, I'm thinking, well, why my mom never actually did something? Why didn't she protect me? Why, so there is actually, and I know when you say there's many questions. So my mom, she always wanted to leave my father with us three girls. However, my dad would always say, you go, but leave my girls. So at least my mom, she stayed with us. She never made the move without us. Back in Bosnia where we lived. But when we came here, this is something that I kept thinking about. I said to my mom, when we landed, I said, Mom, why don't we go? We will survive. Us four girls, we will figure out something. And I remember vividly, she turned to me and she goes, you can leave. Contact your cousin. And she told me who to contact. And she said to me, your cousin will help you out and you can leave, but I can't. So, and I know this can also, again, get so, many listeners confused. Why not? But I feel she is also conditioned to that fear, because I have seen my mom going through many, many, many things. And I'm sure that there is, fear. So I would say like that, having my daughter, that I gained the courage now as a parent, as a mom, to speak up and to say, well, this is what actually is going on. I really need help. I need someone, something to be here, to do something no matter what. And from that onwards, it took me 3 years. And you know what's, it's so funny because we see the problem. We see it's hard to live in those circumstances. However, it's not easily done as we say it. So it took me 3 years from then to really live again with those medications, with those circumstances, with, my mind just going so overwhelmed and thoughts and justifying everything, not seeing for what things are. I really started questioning myself afterwards because people were not believing me and calling me liars. So back in 2011, I remember I left the father of my child and I was, again, as I said, single mom at 31 and whatnot. And I remember the moment, that was actually the last time that I wanted to commit suicide. I thought to myself, okay, this is it. The pain is so big, so greater than anything. So I wanted pain to end. And sometimes, thinking back now, I always thought that the world will be better without me because I'm causing so much confusion, so much pain to others. I wanted just to end. And I remember the moment that I just thought of that and wanting it to do, my daughter walked in the room. It was only us two at the time living at this, beautiful small apartment. And she comes to me and she goes, Mommy, are you sick? Only mother can understand those words because she was only 3 years at the time. And that was actually the breaking point for me when I said to myself, what the heck, Billy, are you doing? Who is going to be here for your daughter, for my daughter, if I'm not there for her as a mom, as a protector? And I made myself decision. I actually pledged to myself that I will do no matter what it takes to turn myself around to be a better person, to be a better mom. And I never stopped since that day till day now, right now, to work on me, to always figuring out how can I become better person, better coach, better mom, better partner, sister, cousin, whatever. that was the breaking point for me. So I'm always grateful, to my girl that, how everything sort of evolved and happened, and to have her and to go through almost 9 years as a single mom, fighting for our life, and working so many jobs, and trying to keep my head above the water, studying and learning and working, and dragging her along with all of my studies and work and everything, because I was certain that one day I will live with purpose, that I'll have my great vision and mission, but I did not know what that was. I just purely had the belief something was inside me telling me, just keep going, don't overthink. Doesn't matter, where, it doesn't matter where you're heading, just get up, go, make a next right step, and that's it.
Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Keep walking and keep moving. I want to ask
That's
you,
it.
I know that you said that I can, I want to say to the listeners that Billy has given me permission to ask, whatever, we feel that may help other people as well in sharing your story. Now, Billy, do you still see your parents?
Great question. I haven't seen my father. It's been now 9 years. So for me, in order for anyone, if we are looking to change something in our life, we also have to change our environment. So my environment had to be without my father in my life in order for me to heal. And the question was like, why do I really need him in my life? Do I really need him? So it's been 9 years since I haven't seen my father. However, with my mom, we just recently, it was, it's been now about 18 months since we sort of reconnected. And pretty much with my mom, I sort of simply, we sort of distanced from each other when my book came out. So I felt that I somehow brought a lots of shame and embarrassment to the family. So I feel that my mom, she's always the person who needs to be a follower, not a leader. So I felt that she was manipulated in some sense not to speak with me, and maybe some form of punishment to her because my father can't, we don't speak. So I feel that came from him, for her not to contact me. But I do see my mom. We do speak. Now, I'll tell you one thing. There is times that I do miss my mom. And the other day I was talking to somebody and I said to them, I'm not even sure whether I love my mom or there is something else, because still within me there is so many unanswered questions, and we can't talk about it. I mean, I can, but my mom can't, because she has her different way of seeing things, and we're two totally different people, and our perception is totally different. So we can't really see eye to eye. So it's, we don't really talk about that, but I have my boundaries, my healthy boundaries. The same with my daughter. My mom doesn't see my daughter on her own. It has to be with myself or my sisters. No way of me seeing my dad or my daughter. However, I have forgiven my father. I really let it go. And in order for me to really forgive him, I really had to learn to accept an apology that I never received. And I actually went through every significant experience in my life that I could remember at the time. And writing my book, it actually brought up so much, to the point I took years to look at my life journey and really translate into new story, new vision, and to learn from every of those moments in my life. And that actually what helped me to really forgive him and to be now in peace within myself. And I hear my readers now when they do read my book, they said, Billy, like, wow, your story, but you were so angry. And I openly now say, when I was writing that book years ago, I really wrote in anger because I was so angry. At the time, I wanted my dad to feel the pain. I wanted to rip him apart with my bare hands. And now looking back, I'm thinking, wow, was I really angry that much? And I actually take my book now as a measure of my growth and measure of my inner success, because I speak calmly about this. And even like I actually struggled. Maybe I struggled to share my story in the beginning because I'm thinking, wow, like I don't want again to put some people in uncomfortable positions. So you're really overthinking of some certain things.
Yeah.
But I can share now in a different way, in a calmer way, with love towards many people out there, and even towards my father. And I'm sure many people will not understand why I'm speaking with such a sort of peace, or in such a way, because of course it will make somebody angry being abused and feeling used and being like an object. And that is I so get it, because I was that person, angry person. But when I learned so much of what forgiveness is, what are the benefits, what are the meanings, what it actually gives me, and that's when I made the peace with my father. So, and also I had to put myself into shoes of my dad, thinking what did he had to go through in order for him to be that way. So this is something that we really do forget, because abuser doesn't just, it's not born abuser. Hurt people, they hurt people. So I feel like you have to go through something so traumatic yourself in order for you to do such a things. If you don't gain the awareness, if you don't gain some certain sort of gifts or something, like for you to recognize, okay, I'm going to cut the cord, I'm not going to pass that on somebody else. Like I have recognized it within myself. I recognize toxicity within me, and I did not want to pass it on to my daughter. I really wanted to break the cord. I really wanted to not to become that abusive person. But what I have done, I became abusive to myself. So one way or the other, we become abusers. I'm not abusing my daughter. I'm not abusing my partner. But however, for a very long time, I abused myself. I had addictions. I was hurting myself. I was using prescribed medications. I was addicted to pornography. Many people, they don't speak about that, but that was the tool that my father used for years of, abusing me. So I do speak openly about these things because they are reality. This is what people are going through. And it's actually silent voice of millions. We are afraid to speak. We are afraid to be heard.
It is the silence, isn't it? It's within the silence that people think that, if I don't say anything, somehow it's a form of protection. And in some instances in life, it is. But also in the silence, it holds so many unspoken things, so many hurtful things for a lot of people who have been abused, that I've heard stories, especially, and it's something that I wanted to ask you, Billy, because I knew somebody, and I have to be careful now, while I was growing up, and she was 2 years younger than me, so we were pretty much a similar age. Our parents knew each other, and she finally told me when she got married, because she got married very young, that she had been abused, and it was by several people. And I knew the people. And it was extremely difficult for me, because what do you do then? What do you do as the listener, as the friend? And I got her to go and get help, and, to talk about it. And there was a strange thing that in my life, even to this day, and listening to you now, sort of, I don't know, awakened something in me from then, is she went on to have 4 children, and she then left her children to be looked after by one of the abusers.
Yeah.
And I could never understand her. And I said to her, I don't understand you. This is completely wrong. And I can't remain friends with you if you're going to do this, because you've got to get help. And she said something really strange to me. And she said to me, Mimi, you don't understand. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, he's the friend of the family, and, and I'll be persecuted and I'll be ostracized. And she was having affair after affair, although she'd got married. And I said, why are you doing that? And she said, and this was the thing, and this is a very difficult pill to swallow. And she said to me, well, because my husband doesn't do what the abusers did to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that moment, I realized the frailty of life and of the human psyche. And I thought, you never know, really, the depth of what someone goes through that pushes them, that affects their life. And then even her, 3 daughters now are affected, because they are now also in a situation where they can't stick to one partner. And you think, well, what happened to them? And, it's a generational thing. What happened to them, to them, to them?
Yeah.
And she's the nicest person really you could meet, but she cannot be faithful. She has disorders. She has different addictions as well. And you just don't know what people go through. And that's why when you were talking, Billy, it sort of evoked that memory. And it's not the first. I know many of my friends, and I know many people like that who have gone through things like that. I mean, we've all gone through some sort of, crises and, suffering in our life. Otherwise, we can't be understanding people. I believe that. Unless you've been through something, you can't really help others going through this, the same thing. But how did you manage to, I don't know, survive? It is the only real question here. Going through that, and where your mum, many people will say this, and I have to say, your parents are the people that should be your protectors. But in this day and age, the more that I look, it's not so ideal. Life is not ideal as it should be. It is as it is. And how did you do it? I mean, how do you still speak to your mum, and how did you find it in your heart to forgive your father? And then go on to have a relationship, and how did you do that?
For me, it's actually years of healing myself and looking within myself. I so can relate with what you just shared, just before. And what do you do when you say, when you know somebody's going through that? And if I may just even share a tiny bit about that, I always feel when somebody tells you the story that they have been abused or they are abused, believe them. Believe them and never doubt, because they are, number one, there is no any trust anyhow. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust anybody. So when somebody tells you that they are abused, they're not just saying just because. They're reaching out. But all we want is for somebody to believe us. Whether we now want to reach out and get help or whatever, we don't want that, because it's it is a scary journey to now get help. And let's dive in, because we constantly think, what is going to happen next? Am I going to be prosecuted? Like all of the things that we just mentioned before, the shame and everything. But for me, manage, how do I manage this survival? It is honestly ongoing work for me. Growing up I sort of figured out that there is a higher power. I felt that, something above. I do believe in God, and I felt that I always had his hand down on me, always, no matter what my difficulties were and challenges and pains that I went through, but I felt the presence when it was my biggest moments of pain. I felt to be relieved from that pain as well. When I was shot, I felt like, he was there present to move my head only 1 millimeter on left side, and that bullet scraped my cheek, my right cheek, and it injured my actually hand, and my left hand actually blew apart. Being in that forced marriage to get away from that man who later on has been actually killed because he was in the chain of the mafia man. So looking back, I felt there was someone is God. That's how I translated to myself. And I was guided. My intuition was sort of, again, guiding me through something I did not even know what that was. And I sort of felt like, just believe and trust your instinct. We tend to think so much, and our mind is there to protect us. But even though, when I was not sure where I was heading and how this is going to turn around, I just felt it is right for me to do. So I'll tell you quickly what had happened. I was not ever married to a father of my child, but when I got out of that relationship, I got married. And I was in marriage for 4 years, like legally married, but I wasn't living with a man. That was my survival thing. I was actually escaping from one relationship. I got into another relationship. That was the first time by my choice to be married, and I felt that I was trapped. I did not even know that I had that fear in me of being trapped. Later on, working through with my psychologist, psychiatrist, coaches, and all of the mentors, it was actually like, being trapped. It again took me back into my childhood. So I had to work through all the layers of the acceptance, of awareness, of acceptance, of mastering my inner dialogue, my thoughts, how I communicated to myself, to really changing every story in my head that did not serve me. Letting go and forgiving. And, then when I actually got all of those tools, I really need to take some action. And this is a constant battle. It is not once off. I've been on this journey now for 9 years. And my self-belief was that men are cruel, that life is too hard, all of the nastiest stuff. And I recognized that I had no self-esteem, no self-worth, no healthy boundaries. There was not any confidence. So working on all of these layers and having daily reminders what my mission, what my vision and my purpose is, that is what's keeping me going, and my survival technique.
I suppose it's like feeling, and not just feeling, but the realization that you are here for a higher purpose.
Definitely. And that's what it is. And on my vision board, there is actually, a similar quote that, this is why I'm getting up every morning for. So it is like, empowering men and women to break the silence of abuse, to remind them that they're beautiful, that they have unique gifts, that every answer that they're looking for, it is inside. So that is my mission now that I'm living for. And it's a great feeling when you actually see people, and when I see my beautiful clients, and when they're transforming their life. And and I do have quite many ladies like exiting relationships or being in a toxic relationship, not knowing that they're in toxic relationship until we start to talk and to see red flags and what are the things. And So it's a very rewarding journey to really wake up with a purpose that I'm living right now in.
And would you say that was some form of momentary transformation, Billy, or would you say it was a whole set of events that, as you said, you need to work on every day?
I would say like whole set of events. And for me, why I say it's every day, it's not necessarily that I'm actually working every day on how to become a better person, but it's like knowing like, um, knowing where you're heading, having that vision in mind, knowing like, your 12-year a 12-month vision, your 3-year goals and mission and vision, and 5 years. So for me, I know where I'm heading, and it doesn't have to be like every day, this is what I'm doing, but I know this is why I'm here for. And to tell you the truth, Mimi, my mission was created for me. I never thought that I'll be speaking. I never thought that I actually would write a book. I never thought that I'll be running programs and teaching other people. Growing up, I didn't really have any dreams. Like, one of my dreams was like, okay, when is going to be the day when I'm going to commit suicide? Because that's how I was living. Every time I was raped and abused, when I learned that in 9 months' time, baby can come, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, I have to really plan my suicide. That was my dream. So my mission was created for me by me just following what I felt that is right thing for me to do to better myself. And even when I decided to publish my autobiography, I didn't just say, okay, I'm going to write an autobiography. Prior to that, it took me 4 years to go through everything, to write it out for myself, to cry myself out, to mourn through everything. And after like quite a few years of writing that and transforming my story in a positive, I thought, wow, I feel now good. I feel much lighter. I feel better than ever before. And that's when something sort of sparked, okay, I can actually put this in a book. I can just share my story. So, people can maybe read my story. And my mission writing the book was, if I can support or save one, not, a few, but one life out there in the world, I'm done. I'm done with my purpose. And before my hard copy came to me, it was actually launched on a line. Somebody from Europe reached through my publishers, reached to me, and it was a man saying, wow, you saved my life, because I was Googling like being alone, not alone, whatever, because he wanted to commit suicide. So he actually went online for those words, and my book popped out. It was, You Are Not Alone. And
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so my mission of writing book was achieved before I even got my hard copy. And, that's when I felt like, wow, I really helped somebody. And from then onwards, people that knew me in my community and where I used to work, they'll reach out. How did I do many things? How did I overcome anxiety and depression? How did I become sober, free of medications? How did I let go of my addictions? Eating disorders, pornography, all of these things that I actually had in my life. They started reaching out, and my mission was created. So here I am today, and I'm loving it. And I would always say, like, if we look at our life and just to see, like, there is a reason for it. It happens for us, not to us. And definitely everything that happened to me happened for a reason, because when people come to me with low self-esteem, with no confidence, no healthy boundaries, no self-worth, hell yeah, I know how to work with you, to support you, to build yourself up, and to really create your healthy boundaries for relationship with yourself. Number one, that's main relationship. Then you sort of mirror that to other intimate relationships with the family, your children. So that's how I sort of taken it, my mission to be.
It's incredible, that even one life, I'm sure that you are saving more than one life, Billy, but even one life to be saved by your trauma and your torment that you went through. I was listening to something actually the other day, and they were talking about holy people, like saints, and you can call them gurus or sages or mystics. And apparently they were asking somebody, I don't know, 100 years ago, and they said, why is it that people have to suffer, that some people have to go through this suffering, whether it be physical or mental or whatever? And the mystic answered, because these people turn out to be the brightest lights, because they're the ones who know, they've been through it, and in a way they're trained, by the divine, to be able then to go and reach out to other people.
Yeah.
So in this tragic story, there is a huge honor that is also there for you, because you are the light and the beacon for so many now.
Thank you, Mimi.
It's
Thanks.
I think it's the only way. I think that people that are trying to help others are usually the ones who've been through the most tragic of circumstances.
I definitely can agree with that, and because people that they reached out to me, they have gone through, some significant things in life, and knowing myself, it's knowing what I went through and what I do for others, and whether they, my clients, they're not my clients, people in general. I think that's where I feel like rewarded, no matter what. Just reach out, help, support, remind somebody, just remind them that, we are so beautiful, uniquely beautiful, and we should love ourselves for who truly we are. And we misinterpret that with our circumstances and thinking, oh, look at me, and I'm living here, not having job, or this and that. They are circumstances. They are not us. They are not you. So really to separate those two things. And I actually have a great privilege of reaching to many people and just reminding them how beautiful, unique, gifted each one of us are. We are gold. We are gold, and we forget that. We forget that because we become the biggest critics of our own.
There's no one worse, is there? It's like there's no one that can be so cruel to us as we can be to ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And this is one of the things that, we have to master our inner dialogue in any journey of transformation, to have the awareness to accept whatever there is, and master the inner dialogue. If we do those three, well, we are on the right path.
I really like what you said, and it's so wise. I'm going to try to remember that in my life now, about, in effect, we are not our situation. It is momentary. In life, everything is momentary. However difficult, it's passing. It doesn't mean that that's who we are. I mean, what a wonderful way to look at it, because it then totally detaches you from whatever is passing by in that river.
And this is how we can actually see beauty with everybody. Everyone is so amazing. But the thing is, our behaviors are not. So if we are abusing somebody, if we are angry, if we are screaming, kicking, yelling, doing those things, that is not part of us. They are the behaviors that is actually deeply conditioned in our subconscious. So this is one thing that I always would even remind myself, number one, then my beautiful clients, and when they say, well, I just got angry and I'm ashamed. It is okay. It is okay to experience all of these emotions. They are not you. They are the behaviors. So we dislike behaviors.
It's true, and it's difficult though, isn't it, Billy?
Very, very challenging, hey?
Yes, to separate that, it's
Yes.
difficult. I shared a story actually on one of the episodes, and it's just reminded me what you said about, everyone, innately is beautiful in their creation, but it's what happens to them that makes them the way they are. And I remember, I'm going to share the story again, because it's relevant, and it's about how me and a friend of mine were traveling on this road, and it was a motorbike, and he had overtaken us, and two other cars, black, sort of really strange looking cars, because the windows were all blacked out, so who knows really what was going on. And I had this very strange feeling about the whole thing, and then literally minutes along the road was shut suddenly, and it was like a motorway, and the bike had crashed. There was no sign of the cars, but the bike had crashed, and we were stuck on there for literally hours upon hours, and the ambulance, the air ambulance, everyone was there. But there was a moment, Billy, when it was silent, and it was nighttime, and it was pitch black. There were no lights on this part of the motorway, and there was something that pulled me to look up, and everybody in that moment I saw looked up, and we saw this light come from this motorcyclist, and it just went towards the sky. And I thought, this is the soul of that person. This is who that person is, not who was riding the bike. And he died subsequently. He died in that moment, and we were all part of that moment of death. But in a way, he had gone back to his eternal light. And I always try to think of that, because it's similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So difficult, isn't it, to distinguish that?
It is so, well, difficult, challenging, you name it. And every time I would feel like, let's say, if I find myself like, which I can do very well, scream at my daughter, then you'll sort of think, oh, wow, where does this come from? So the thing is, for me, like I would say to myself, okay, that doesn't make me bad mom. I'm a great mom. So now I'll be actually working out, like, where is that coming from? Because all of the behaviors, everything that, comes out, from us that we really dislike, we learned somewhere there, it's part of our conditioning, but we learned. So if we go back, and usually it's in those childhood age of, up to 6 or 7 years of age.
Yeah.
That something had happened. It could be subconsciously. It can well truly be that we don't even remember. But there is sort of, therapies and, things that we sort of can do, that we can bring that subconscious to awareness to really let go. So that's actually what I have done so much with me, like, healing that inner child through different therapies. And to tell you the truth, Mimi, believe me, day to day, I've got my coaches, my mentors, and my therapist by my side. Even though, like I said, being a coach, coaching amazing people out there, but I have my people to go to, because, as I said, I'm forever a student. I'm still learning and growing and, bettering myself as a human. And it will never stop with me. And we constantly need to have these reminders from professionals.
Mm.
So
Mm.
for me, I actually really am grateful that I have these people, and it's, we come from that side like, oh, but therapist, but coach, but this, but that, there's so many excuses not to have one because of the fear of, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to point some problems? Not at all. I think, like, wanting to help yourself, wanting to work towards something, you just, get your tribe, get your support. Don't be embarrassed. Um, there is nothing wrong to have a psychologist, psychiatrist, nothing wrong if you need to have medications to get you on the right path, and figure out later on what is going to happen. For me, I made the decision for myself to get off all the drugs that I was on. Talking about medications, I never used any other sort of illegal drugs or anything like that. But I made the decision to become sober, to become clean, to get rid of all of these things. And it's just how much you want it. And when we do want, there is no, oh, I don't need therapists. Like, bring it on, give it. Because for me, it was not a question, how am I going to do it? It's like, okay, I'll do whatever it takes. Just go, just go. I actually invested money that I didn't even have, but I knew on the other side I will come better, healthier. I would become clean. I will become wiser, all of those things. So I believed, and I had that certainty that on the other end, I will become that light that you speak about. So that was me.
And it's the beautiful realization, isn't it, that underneath all of the darkness of the world, there is us who are
Mm.
actually bringing the light to the world.
Yeah, 100%. So we actually make the choice. We do make a choice. As you said at the beginning, entirely it is up to us. So
Mm.
we are making decisions no matter where you're right now in your life, no matter what your circumstances, the decision, the choice is yours. And, going back to the being silent, you know, being silent, we think, okay, we are going to keep the peace, because I speak to many people that they would like to share their stories, but they are afraid of many things, as I was afraid. And I spoke yesterday to an amazing lady, and I said, by you being so silent, you are protecting your perpetrator. So what are we really, doing? Are we protecting ourselves by being silent, or people that really abused us?
And what would you say the answer to that was, Billy?
We're really protecting perpetrators.
Mm.
Being silent, because we stay in silence for the sake of the family, for the sake of peace. But the thing is, there is no peace within yourself. So if you become true and honest to you, I actually live by this mantra: the truth will set you free. So if you're true to yourself, with no excuses, labels, or justifications, but what about this? But this happened because of this, all of these things. Be true to what really is. Make peace within yourself. Make it peace within yourself, because I usually say to when I speak and everything, the number one regret of dying people is not living true to themselves. They would usually live the life that somebody else wanted them to live.
Oh, that's a heavy burden
Yeah.
to have carried through life, and
Yes. So, mm, I, I feel if somebody wants to share the story, but they're thinking, what about this? What about that? There is going to be humps and bumps. And, with me sharing my story, there is a division in the family. However, people that chose not to believe me, I chose not to be part of their life, or for them not to be part of my life. So, for me, it's been now battling with the truth and everything for about 9 years, and I'm living my peace. So the 10 years is nothing compared to rest of your life. So
Yes.
you might be living another 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, living in that silence. That is actually eating you away. So by speaking the truth, by being honest to yourself, by forgiving, letting go, it's really to sit down and to really define what does it do to you? What are the benefits of being you, living in peace, speaking up? And if you stay in silence, what is going to happen then? So I would usually sort of, do a bit of a comparison and, for people to work out for themselves, because we cannot tell people to do something that they don't want to do.
Mm.
So people usually will figure out for themselves, as I did for myself. Although for me, I feel like, I started this I was desperate to become a better person when I recognized where I was. And maybe, I did not let myself to overthink, where is this leading me? Because I was anyhow on my own at that time. Like, no one believed me. I was single mom. All people that I had around me was people at my work at the time. So I pretty much had no one at the time anyhow. And to be here where I am with amazing, beautiful daughter, my beautiful sisters, my beautiful family members, that they are amazing, that I chose to have them in my life, to have an amazing partner in my life, to have a healthy relationship. And that is like, for me, this is untold. If you told me 5 years ago that I'll be living this life right now with this level of peace, joy, happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, and I'm talking internal, everything is within, nothing to do with material stuff or physical stuff, it's all within. I never would have believed that 5 years ago. But it is possible. It is possible.
It's possible, isn't it? It's absolutely possible. And you talked about, Billy, the comparisons that you offer. So let's just explain to the listeners, you are now healing other people, in effect. Tell us a little bit about what your work is now.
For me, what I do, it's really supporting people to build their self-esteem, to really discover their worth and gain their confidence wherever they are in life. And with my principles, we can use that in a personal life and also professional life. So the only type of healing that I would do, it would be through the personal breakthroughs with the timeline therapy, because I did study neuro-linguistic programming. So the way how we change the stories, how we speak to ourselves, the different modalities. However, I don't really call myself healer, but my clients on the other end, they do. I feel like through their journey, they say, "Oh, Billy, you sort of helped me, you healed," and I wouldn't say that I'm healer.
Absolutely.
I'm purely actually using all the tools and strategies and blueprints that I actually applied to myself. So there is no any specific formula that I go by or anything, and everybody, it's uniquely different. And when we work one-on-one, it's a different strategy, because then we figure out what that is. And what I also do, if I feel that specific person needs something that I cannot offer, I'm so blessed to work in an environment that I do have support and people that I reach out and they support me. And I'll give you an example. There is, quite a few ladies that have been actually abused, and we sort of don't go through intimacy, enjoyment of intimacy. We are very ashamed. We, so much block ourselves. So then I would actually call the experts, because I'm not expert in that area. So, and pretty much the whole process becomes sort of a healing process where, by any means, I do support people with really building their self-esteem and confidence, discovering their worth. What I really encourage everybody, building the healthy boundaries around everything about yourself, your self-love, your self-worth, to really rebuilding. We all have that within us, but sometimes you really need the checklist and to some certain things to be rebuilt. Because as I work with many people in relationships or, living toxic relationships, we do forget what self-love is, what that means, how it feels. So, I'm really put on, having those healthy boundaries and building boundaries around everything. So by that, you'll know, okay, what does it fit in my self-love, in my self-respect, in my integrity? Okay, this doesn't feel right. No, I don't need it. So, on the other hand, you really walk away with refuel yourself with, becoming that unstoppable, unshakable person.
And tell us a little bit about boundaries, Billy, because I remember I knew somebody once on my travels, and she said something interesting about boundaries, and I won't ever forget that. She said, this is my space, this is my country, so to speak. If you want to come, you have to get a visa. And maybe today I'll give you a visa and maybe I won't. It just depends. And it always sort of made me smile, because I think, you are the master of your destiny, so to speak. I'm a great believer in destiny, and there are some things obviously that we don't know, but I think the soul and the heart follow a certain path that it knows it's correct for it. And these boundaries are things that I see a lot, that people actually don't have them, and they'll allow themselves to be treated in the most appalling of ways.
Yeah. And this is the way, lack of self-esteem and self-worth comes in. And I'm actually bulletproof of that as well. And this is why I stayed in some relationships that vividly I knew that they're not for me, but because lacking self-esteem, and you just sort of stay in there. And sometimes it's just easier to just stay than, to make a move and do something. So with the self-boundaries, let's say, we're talking about self-love, because I'm like big believer, like, loving yourself for who truly are. That is the best medicine. When you truly love yourself, you accept yourself for who you are with your ups and downs. And when you know that you deserve of everything. So for me, it's like really knowing what the self-love is, number one. So if you're making boundaries about respect, know and define that to you, what respect to you is, or anything. So number one, I will encourage everybody, whatever you're building self boundaries around, know what that is and what that means to you. So let's say, like, we are building boundaries around self-love. What self-love really is to you. First thing, knowing that is the vibration it is actually feeling. So, I would say, okay, what are the feelings? You feel energized, you feel empowered, you feel loved. What is that color? What is the shape? Do you name that self-love? How do you name it? So all of these things that you sort of put in that basket, or put it in one jar. So and majority, as I said, like, in relationship, like, we are building around the partner, like, what our partner, we would like to have, the characters, everything that comes. So when we, let's say, we are with around somebody that we don't feel really good, that they're actually dragging us down, that are pulling us backwards, then you go to the boundaries of your self-love and you think, well, that's what I actually did not want to feel. These are my feelings. It's not being tired and exhausted and broken down and being pulled back. Well, it doesn't really match my self-love boundaries. And with everything, really, don't go by dictionary to say, okay, what self-love is. Make it to you. Define it for yourself. What is the meaning? What are the benefits? What is the definition for you? Because we can be looking at the same thing but translating in different ways. So this is sometimes where we sort of, what is the word? We sort of put, everything in one. We sort of assume, okay, self-love means this, and, yeah, I've heard this. No, what is it for you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I openly speak about forgiveness, and I run the workshops on forgiveness. I just love the topic. And, for me, like, forgiveness to me, it's learning to accept an apology that I never received. So when we think, okay, I learned to accept an apology I never received. So my father never apologized to me, but I learned to accept that. Many people that abuse me, they never apologize, but I learned. So that's my definition. So I created the meaning of forgiveness. I also write all the benefits, reducing my stress, many mental illnesses disappeared with that. So writing benefits and meanings and definitions of everything that you are going through, be clear and understand what that is. Articulate. The more understanding you've got around it in your own wording, in your own language, the better it is. Because we sometimes thrive to be sophisticated and use this language and do, like, I've learned one thing. My English is not perfect at all. And I honestly, I found very hard to share my story in the beginning, because, of many other reasons. But one thing is, I've been bullied with my English, with my accent. But guess what? The English for me, it's really a tool to really support people and be that vessel and share my story. And, and I articulate stuff the way how I know and I understand. I don't try to be something or someone or speak something that I don't even understand. So I understand what you are talking about.
And there's so many ways to talk, isn't there, Billy?
Definitely.
There's so many different languages. But what I learned, and I don't know about you, but what I learned, that no matter where I was in the world, it's the language of love that got me through.
Yes.
And it's a universal language that everybody understands.
Yes, the same like singing. It is a universal language.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Everybody understands it.
That's it.
You
feel it. You feel it.
Yes, yeah. You feel
it is the feeling.
It's the feeling. It's a strong
and this is
feeling.
one main thing with everything. Connect the feeling with it. It's not like, we so much talk about vision and mission and whatever, but what is the feeling with it? If you don't connect the feeling, it's not happening. Like weird, affirmations. If it's not, if you don't mean it and feel it, it's not, happening. But the more you do it, you will become to feel. So don't be afraid if you don't feel it right now. The more you do it, the more you practice it, no matter what it is. Even self-love, even loving yourself. The more you do it, the more you affirm that you're loving you and believing in you, it happens. Over time, it happens. This is a process. It is not overnight thing. It is not shortcut to anything. So it is a process.
It is a process. And I think I always go by this. If it doesn't feel right, if that person doesn't feel right for whatever reason, talking about feelings, then leave it, because there is this thing of gut feeling that we have this sort of radar and this equilibrium within us that pretty much tells us when something is for us and something is not for us. It's learning to trust that, isn't it?
100%. But then, how do you learn to trust? That's the big question.
That's the $64 million question, isn't it?
That's it. Yes.
The more you trust, I think, the more you trust that voice within you, that's that unshakable voice, it has then the courage to speak more to you, and then you build a relationship. I have a friend of mine, and we have this thing of, ask your heart, ask your heart. Well, what should I do? Ask your heart, ask your heart. And then we have this moment, and it's like, it's funny because it's like being five, but, actually it works, and it's incredible the answers it gives. And sometimes you don't want to hear it, but it's the way to go. So it's like, well, shall I go there or shall I not? Shall I be with this person and go to that event, or shall I not? Or it can be anything, absolutely anything. Shall I buy this or shall I buy, And then you say, well, ask your heart. So there I am, we're asking our heart, shall we do it? Shall we do it? And then I said, okay, what does your heart say? No, what does your heart say? Well, go on, say it. And then it says no. And she said, yeah, mine says no. So that's it then. That's it then.
That's it.
And that's it.
Because the moment we involve our mind, it will tell us different.
Yes.
Because it's, the instinct will always tell you and guide you where you are supposed to go. It looks scary. It looks maybe, unclear at the time, but trust those instincts. Trust it.
Trust. And that's the point. Trust yourself. Trust your heart and trust your soul, I think, above all else. And pretty much we're halfway there.
Yeah.
We're halfway. At least keep walking, as you say, keep making those steps, and, wipe your knees and get up again.
And get up and
just,
go. Yeah.
Keep going. Life is like this train of, you keep going. You keep going and you keep moving, and the past is gone. Leaving with it its lessons. But what do? We have to, as you say, trust our heart, trust our feeling. And day by day, that's all we can do.
That's it. That's it. Just, and I always feel it's always that story that we tell ourselves. So even when we, fall down or we think we failed, if we just have the story that we are just getting the feedback, that maybe this is not the way for us, let's go the different path. So not even being said, well, there we go, I failed. Straight away we actually become, these critical creatures for ourselves, but really, get up and keep moving, fall forward. It is okay. Get up and get the feedback, get the lesson, get the learning. Because if we haven't fallen so many times, and if we haven't been in a rock bottom, I feel that I would not, have any of the knowledge what I've got today, and the strength and the courage, and all the other beauties that comes with me right now. So keep embracing. And sometimes we can't see while it's happening, why is it happening? For what purpose? But I always said, if you think of your life as those like a puzzles, each puzzle will find the right spot, and after all, you will have that perfect picture. Why did that happen, and for what reason?
Yes, like
so
every
each
chapter
line,
is a puzzle. It's true.
Yes. Yeah.
It's true, and that gives us hope in itself, to know that this is just one part of a greater picture.
That's it.
Which is a hopeful way to look at life, in fact, is that whatever we're going through, it's just part of a greater tapestry of life.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow, I'm really so grateful to you, Billy. Extraordinary lady, beautiful that you are in sharing your story, truly. And, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really honoured to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's been my honour to be here. And I have been waiting for this, even though it's very late here in Australia.
I know. I'm so grateful. Oh dear.
But no, it's been my pleasure, and I really love what I do, and if this actually takes, again, one person to really think deeper and break the silence, voice themselves, again, mission accomplished. So it's been my pleasure, Mimi. Thank you.
Thank you. And Billy, where can people find out about your work and what you do, and if they want to contact you, and also about your book?
Everything can be actually found at billyboss.com. In fact, my website is actually launching on 1st of September. So right now, you can still find it, but everything is going to be actually on billyboss.com. Facebook is the same. I'm everywhere under Billy Boss. Even my book you can find on my platform as well, website. So billyboss.com.
Is it on Amazon as well, Billy, your book?
On Amazon, yes. You can also find the Amazon digital as well, and hard copy. So,
and what's it called?
Yeah.
Called?
The book is called You Are Not Alone.
And it's You Are Not Alone by Billy Boss, and it's available on Amazon and all sorts of, different publishing platforms.
The book is actually the book is under Anna Mila Bella, and because we had actually to hide our identity.
Okay.
Yes. So You Are Not Alone, and it's written by Anna Mila Bella.
By Anna Mila Bella. Okay.
Yes.
Right then.
Yes.
So people can find you there, and also on the website. And are people free to contact you, Billy?
Yes. All the contact details you still can actually find on the Billy Boss. And many people, they actually do reach out through the Messenger and Facebook, or, either professional or personal page. So definitely, by all means. I don't bite, I welcome.
I always say that I don't bite. Well, not on a Sunday. Oh dear. And I always, just before you go, I know of the time difference, and it's late where you are, but a few words of wisdom, more than you've given so many today, but I always ask my guests this at the end, Billy, for people out there, just a few lines to keep giving them hope. What advice would you give?
Well, I always keep reminding myself to be kind to myself. So if you be kind to you, because we are only one that, we can nurture and love ourselves. No one can love us more than we can do that. So if we take care of ourselves, be kind to, love ourselves, respect ourselves, speak kindly, take time for yourself, everything just for you. That would be my sort of little reminder again. Just love who you are, care for you, be kind. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you again. Thank you so much, Billy. And are you going to bed now?
Right now, it is 11 p.m.
Oh, poor Billy. And, she's taken the time to talk to us. But, it's been amazing, and it's been truly beautiful. Thank you again, Billy.
Thanks, Mimi. Thank you. And all the best to all of you.
And all the best to you. Take care, Billy.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Billy Boss, extraordinary lady with an even more extraordinary story of bravery and survival that shows us that no matter what we are going through, we are more powerful than any situation that we are facing. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, look after yourselves and lots of love.
Thank you for listening to Secrets for an Inspirational Life, brought to you by your host, Mimi Novic. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, and see you in the next episode. For more information about Mimi Novic and her books, music, and inspirational work, take a look at her website, www.miminovic.co.uk.